I believe without further ado, we will hand it over to Mr. John Orstein and look forward to what you're going to tell us, John. Excuse me, I'm going to go that way. You can go that way. Thank you.
Will you all hear of a bloody battle lately fought amongst the sea? It will make your ears to rattle and our admiration to cease. Have you heard of Teach the Rover and his knavery on the main? How of gold he was a lover, and how he loved all ill-gotten gain. When the Act of Grace appeared, Captain Teach, with all his crew, unto the Carolina he steered, where kindly he would never leave. That, believe it or not, are the words of Benjamin Franklin when he was 12 years old, when he heard about Blackbeard. Blackbeard was, of course, notorious. But I have to tell you, Ben Franklin's father said, well, you need to find another job. And which I find unusual. There's a lot of mystery about Blackbeard, but the conclusion of Ben Franklin's broadsheet, he actually went on the streets of Boston selling them. Teach's head was made a lover to the jackstaff of the ship. Thus they sailed to Virginia, and when the story told how they killed all the pirates many, and how applause for both young and old. So Blackbeard is known as Edward Teach, Edward Thatch, Edward Thick, Edward Thack, Tack, and Tash. We don't know his real name. We believe he was born in Bristol, England in 1680. And we got to remember Bristol at that time was the second largest city in the United Kingdom. And also it was a major center for the slave trade. Somehow Teach is going to become part of the pirateer movement. And I got to tell you, this is a letter of marque right here, not given to Blackbeard, but it would be given to captains. And letters of marque are basically when England was at war with Spain, letters of marque would be issued by the government so that you legally could raid other nations, the nation we're fighting against, shipping. And so that made fun for the privateers. You know, they got to make money, they enjoyed their life. However, during the Queen Anne's War, Teach is going to serve as a privateer under the leadership of a man known as Captain Benjamin Hornigold. So when the war's over, what do you do if you're a privateer? Do you go back to the farm? Are you going to be a quiet merchantman? No, you have lived on plunder and booty, and that's what you want to do. So Benjamin Hornigold is going to actually be able to have a successful voyage. And so his successful voyage are all based out of New Providence, Bahamas, which became basically a little pirate city of its own. And the English wanted to clear it out, but the resources are very difficult. So eventually in 1717, Blackbeard is going to be placed in command of a sloop with 6 guns, and he will actually serve with Hornigold. They go down to the Bay of Honduras. They go throughout the Caribbean. They range up the coast. Now, Blackbeard is going to actually, there's going to be one person that works with him, not really work with him, but it plays a big thing in our story. His name is Stead Bonnet. Stead is, of course, a gentleman farmer in Barbados. He gets married. He's inherited this great sugar plantation. And however, it was said that he became disaffected by his marital connections. In other words, Captain Charles Johnson, where we get many of these stories from. He published books in the first one, 1724, all about pirates. Actually, Captain Johnson is really Daniel Defoe. You compare the style of Daniel Defoe's Diary of the Plague Year, and then go look at this, and you can see it has the same meter. It's using the same situation. It's very much like Herman Melville, who would take stories and turn them into compelling novels. Well, I have to tell you, what is Blackbeard? Well, on 28 November 1717, he captured the La Coria of St. Vincent. This Guinea man, they called him Guinea man because they were slave ships. And so he turns it in to what's known as the Queen Anne Revenge. Purported to have 40 guns. Other people say it had 36. That's the problem with history. Sometimes we get different points of view. However, he captures the ship. He gives those Frenchmen sailing it, here's my old ship, which needed careening and everything. Instead, he sails off and makes the Queen Anne's Revenge the most powerful pirate ship operating in English North America. He captures one ship known as the Great Island. That was front page news in the Boston Newsletter. And he actually will gain another ship, and that is Stead Bonnet. Stead Bonnet, unlike, if you're a pirate, how do you get your ship? Well, first you get a little longboat, then you pull up next to a bigger boat, you raid it, and then you get a bigger boat and so forth. So what we see happening is that Stead Bonnet, he is going to buy his boat. He's going to pay his pirates an annual salary. And so he's like, he doesn't know what he's doing. Many people become disaffected with Stead Bonnet, but the bottom line is he's known as the gentleman pirate. When Blackbeard meets him, Blackbeard is going to say, you are a gentleman of good reputation in the island of Barbados, and has been driven to piracy by some disaffection, but you are a gentleman and need not to trouble you with the daily operations of the ship. Oh my gosh. In other words, Blackbeard's taking over the Revenge from him. He then makes the Revenge under the command of Lieutenant Thomas Richards, and Bonnet, it goes on to Blackbeard's ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, has a library in the cabin, and life is good for a gentleman. So I have to tell you, Blackbeard now, everyone knows he's evil. In fact, the first real comment or description of him is by Captain Henry Bostic, who reported to Governor Walter Hamilton of St. Christopher's Island that Teach had a large ship containing valuable gold dust, silver plate, and a very large fine cloth. He was told, Bostic, that he was going to Hispaniola. Bostic said he was a tall, spare man with a very black beard. This, by the way, is a similar ship to the Queen Anne's Revenge. This is Stead Bonnet. Here's Blackbeard over here. I got to tell you, we're going to learn. Blackbeard was successful because of his persona. Captain Charles Johnson says he wore a large hat, knee-length boots, and a large coat brightly adorned with colored silk or velvet. He spread fear amongst everyone just because of his look. Now, you wouldn't like this guy walking in the room with you over here. And so basically, it was said, and both his crew members and his victims all scared him. In fact, sometimes they'd stop a ship and Blackbeard would just show up, and they go, oh, we give up. And so let me tell you, he had broad shoulders and he was tall. He was coal black beard, which was long, reaching up to his eyes and extending down almost to his waist. His beard, as you see here, kind of like dreadlocks, is festooned with red and pink ribbons that he turns into pigtails, some of which he'd wrap around his ear. So, he's kind of crazy looking. Basically, his eyebrows were so thick and bushy that you can imagine all you're seeing are these piercing, evil eyes of a man about 6 foot tall, very well built, so probably 120, 200 pounds. And in battle, he shows up with a sling over his shoulder, both shoulders probably. Charles Johnson just says one, with a brace of pistols, right? Wait a second. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. There you go. So anyway, you can see the brace of pistols, the fierceness of him. Look how tall he is over everyone else on the boat. I have to tell you that Blackbeard was a personification of evil. So he had pistols dangling in his holsters, a large sword. Added to his fierce appearance, he put a slow match, which basically was made of softly rolled hemp, dipped in saltpeter and lime water. Wow. So when he hopped on your deck, he's smoking, right? And not a cigar. So he's smoking. He's got these piercing eyes. He's got all these weapons, generally a red velvet coat. And what do you think? Once again, you've got me, Blackbeard. So, so anyway, this look made him, according to Captain Johnson, altogether such a fierce figure that imagination cannot form an ideal of fury from hell to look more frightful. Now, Blackbeard was noted for his courage, his daring. Actually, the Queen Anne Revenge is going to engage the HMS Scarborough, a frigate with 30 guns. He's got at least 36, and the Scarborough breaks off action. So this is pretty serious circumstance that's happening now. So he is going to capture numerous ships, including the Anne of Glasgow. So he goes up to the Virginia Capes. He actually careens his vessel. That means they have to clean the bottom. They go up to the Delaware Bay, and then they start to go back down to the Bay of Honduras. Everywhere they are, they're capturing ships. In fact, they capture one ship that was the 8-gun Jamaican logwood hauler under the command of David Herriot. Well, when Blackbeard shows up fiercely on his deck, Herriot says, "Not only do I give up, may I join you." So Blackbeard has put together actually a squadron. And what makes him so daring, on the way up to, oh boy, Charleston, he is going to stop. One ship is called a turtler. In other words, they got a bunch of food. What Blackbeard did mostly is when they stopped a ship, they would then loot it of everything they wanted. Sometimes they burn it. Sometimes they let it go. Sometimes they looked at the ship and says, well, you can have these longboats and we're going to take the ship. So, he has amassed tremendous wealth. His men, of course, need to get rum every day. And actually, Blackbeard would actually strive to take care of his crew. That was his management system. Number one, he's big and mean. Number two, he made sure the crew had plenty to drink. A drunken pirate is a happy pirate. And so, he wanted his crew to be happy. I have to tell you, so he actually brings his flotilla up and blockades one of the leading ports in America, English America, Charlestown. It's then called Charlestown. And so what he does is some ships are coming out, he captures them. Some ships are coming in, he captures them. One of the ships coming out is going to have on board some of Charlestown's leading politicians, wealthy merchants, and everything. So Blackbeard holds them hostage. He sends a Mr. Marks with one of his pirates, Captain Thomas Edwards, and they go into Charleston because Blackbeard says, I'll let all these people go only if you give me a chest of medicines. Well, you know, that chest of medicines, why do they need it? Well, we can only figure they're wild and crazy guys. So they must, so anyway, and Marks takes his ship in and he capsizes it. So he has to send a message back to Blackbeard. Oh, give me more days, because he gave him 2 days to take care of this. Then Marks goes into Charlestown, and both Richards and Roberts go off drinking and carousing and whatever a pirate does when they're in a port. And so Marks gets the medicines, but they can't find the other pirates. And so they have to track them down and then send them back. And Blackbeard now is very happy. He releases all the ships he stopped. He releases all the prisoners. However, every one of those prisoners had what? They had gold and silver coin and that sort of stuff. And so he loots everyone, even their clothing. These guys get sent back to Charlestown without their money, without their luggage, and also without their clothes. So you can well imagine Blackbeard now has established himself. Well, he's truthful when he says, I'll return the hostages, but he wasn't quite truthful enough, you know, because he just took whatever money he wanted. And so this is pretty good. After Charlestown, what do? Well, as Blackbeard was off Charleston's bar, he stops all these ships and gathers information, what is going on. And so the going on is that a Captain Woods Rogers, an ex-privateer, has been given a commission by the king to go chase down all these pirates, especially the nest of pirates in New Provincetown. And one of the pirates, of course, they want to get is Blackbeard. So, you know, it's going to be a pretty simple thing, because when you have a change of monarch, the king, the new king, will issue what's called a king's pardon. If you had been a thief, had you been a pirate, you could go to a local official, says, I'm giving up my trade of piracy and I want to take the king's pardon. They go, okay, you get that. And so Blackbeard actually, and this is pretty neat. So he's got these 4 ships and he's coming in to what's called Topsail Inlet, which is now known as Beaufort Inlet. And he runs the Queen Anne Revenge aground. Oh my gosh, it breaks its mainmast, it ruins its hull. And actually the Adventure, now commanded by Israel Hands, tries to go up and get them off the sandbank. They can't, the Adventure is damaged. My gosh, why did Blackbeard do this? According to the Revenge boatswain, Ignatius Pell, he said that Blackbeard did this on purpose. He did not want to share his loot with anyone. And so he runs the ship aground. Then he uses a sloop that he had captured to maroon 25 members of the Revenge's crew. He tells Stead Bonnet, you know, you need, now remember, he has told Stead Bonnet that you're a gentleman, you don't have to do anything. Now he says, well, we both need to go get pardons. He sends Bonnet up to get his pardon. Guess what? He gets it from a dubious crook as a governor known as Charles Edenton. That's right. Edenton, North Carolina is named for him. The capital of North Carolina at that time is in Bath, North Carolina. So Blackbeard tells Bonnet, look, I'm going to leave you with your ship. You just go and get your pardon and everything will be waiting for you. So guess what? Bonnet goes up, gets his pardon, comes back down. There's his ship. However, it's been looted of everything, right? And his crew is nowhere to be found. So somehow he gets underway. He finds the maroon crew members on a sand island near Beaufort, North Carolina, and that had no food, no water, no anything. Blackbeard's not a nice person, remember. And so he is going to then search for Blackbeard. However, Blackbeard has gone up. Remember, he's got gold dust, silver plate. So he shows up in Bath, says, I want a pardon. This guy you don't say no to, right? Okay, just think of that. And so Governor Eden says, yes, we'll give you a pardon. Here's a nice property you can buy right across the Bath Creek on Plum Point from where I live. That's how much I love you, you know. And why does he love him? Because he's scared of him, you know. So that's the big thing about Blackbeard. So Bonnet will change his name to Captain Thomas, just to finish his story. He renames his ship the Royal James. He goes off the Virginia Capes, only so successful. He goes up to the Delaware Bay, only so successful. And he comes back down to the Cape Fear. Now, South Carolina has not been happy with the pirate activity. You know, if your town is blockaded, you don't like it. So a Colonel William Rhett is giving several ships and told to go track down Blackbeard, go track down these other pirates known as like Charles Vane and Calico Jack Rackham. And so in the mouth of the Cape Fear River, actually, Bonnet will be captured. He's taken to Charlestown. And he goes, oh my gosh, I'm a gentleman. You don't want to hang me. And they said, well, you're a pirate. And so, yes, we do. And so he will be hanged. Well, this is a scary situation. Now, Teach has gotten his pardon from Governor Charles Eden. He then will become a fixture in the town. He's famous. He's dangerous. And so Blackbeard has a certain celebrity. Now, at the height in July of 1718, he marries a 16-year-old daughter of a local plantation owner. She would be his 14th wife. 12 are known to still be living and not divorced. So, but he didn't care. So Blackbeard was such a brute that after laying with his wife one night, the next morning, he calls some of his favorite pirates in and he gives his wife to them and watches. You know, that's really pretty nasty. Actually, he's sitting at a table having dinner with his pilot, as well as Israel Hands, a guy that served with Blackbeard since 1716. So what does Blackbeard do? He pulls out pistols under the table and fires them. One misfires, so the pilot runs away, but the other one shoots into Israel Hand's knees, and Israel, is lame for life. Why would you do that? And Blackbeard retorts that if he did not now and then kill one of them or wound them, they would forget who he was. And so you will imagine. And one time he says, everyone said he's in league with the devil. Well, he kind of looks like the devil. And this is, of course, Bath, North Carolina. You can still go there today and see some of the original architecture from the beginning of North Carolina. One time he told his crew, come, let us make hell of our own and try how long we can bear it. So Teach and 3 others went down into the hole, and they closed up the hatches, and they filled several pots full of brimstone and other combustible matters and set it on fire. And so continued until the other men clamored they couldn't take it and come out, and Blackbeard merely laughed and said, I am the best of you all. So he was considered the devil incarnate. Now, he's getting real tight with Governor Eden. he bullies Eden. One time he says, well, if I don't get a chest of sugar, I'm going to burn your town, and I need that chest in 2 hours. Well, he gets it. He actually will go places, and the merchants, sometimes he paid them, sometimes he didn't. He'd go stay at plantations, homes, where he would give gifts of sugar. Now, sugar is one of the hottest market items in the 18th century, right? Makes everything taste good, as we know. So I have to say that he will actually sometimes, after getting those gifts, getting everybody drunk, he'd take advantage of the daughters and wives of that planter. There was nothing they could do because he's protected legally by the governor of North Carolina and the collector of customs, Tobias Knight. Now, I got to tell you, so Teach goes and tells Eden, now he's taken the pardon, right? So he has to be careful. He says, well, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sail to St. Thomas. I am going to take a commission to track down these other pirates and to be a privateer for the king. Well, great. He leaves North Carolina, but guess where he goes? He does not go to St. Thomas. He goes up along the Virginia coast. He actually goes as far as the Delaware Bay. He actually didn't capture many ships at first. And so as he wrote, now, Blackbeard is a highly literate person. Some people claim that he came from an extremely wealthy family. But as we know, we don't really know where he comes from. So he noted in his journal one day, such a day, rum all out. Our company somewhat sober, a damn confusion amongst us. Rogues a plotting, great talk of separation. So I looked sharp for a prize. Such a day it took me, with a great deal liquor on board, so kept the company happy, hot, damned hot. Then all things went well from there. So, it's easy. You could see he had a great management style. He'd scare you and he kept you drunk. So, Blackbeard goes back to Bath. He kind of pushes people around. He actually, before he gets there, he will capture two French ships. One has it's empty of supplies. The other one is filled with sugar and cocoa, big dollars. So what does Blackbeard do? He captures these ships. He puts all the men on the other non-supplied ship, and he tows that other ship back to Bath. And he actually tells Governor Eden and Tobias Knight, I found this ship a derelict. Well, you can't imagine that. But they all said, oh, sure, it's your prize. You get it. And so actually Eden gets 60 hogshead of sugar. Tobias Knight gets 20 hogshead of sugar. And then they burn the ship so that evidence is gone. Well, several people in North Carolina are a little upset with all this activity. So they send a letter to this man. He's actually lieutenant governor of Virginia, although they call him governor. He's lieutenant governor of Virginia, Alexander Spotswood. And there's one thing Spotswood hates, and that happens to be pirates. And so he had actually 2 guard ships located in Hampton Roads to protect the shipping coming out of Hampton Roads. Now, Spotswood learns that Blackbeard has set up at Ocracoke Inlet. You can actually go to Teach's Hole. That's where his ship would have been. And he creates this great pirate camp. It was so happy to go there that this leading pirate, Charles Vane, later hanged in Charlestown, Calico Jack Rackham, another evil pirate. And they all, guess what? They go to Ocracoke, and everyone's fearing, oh my gosh, it's going to be another new Provincetown. We must do something about it. So Spotswood actually goes to the General Assembly and he will pass a law that does not come effective until November 14th. But while that's saying we must chase down all pirates and put them to their duty, actually, they list several ships that Blackbeard had captured from Virginia, like the Betty and the Robert. So what's going to happen is that they actually capture one of Blackbeard's crew, and he is, of course, William Howard. And William Howard, they're going to say, we're going to hang you, you're a pirate, and he spills the beans about Blackbeard, and however, he gets a pardon the day before he is to hang. So he's one of the few survivors of a Blackbeard crew. Now, Spotswood knew that Blackbeard and his crew had violated their pardon. As he said, like dogs to their vomit, they have returned to their own detestable way of living. So basically, Spotswood goes to these two guard ships, and the HMS Lime and the HMS Pearl, and they agree to set up an expedition to capture Blackbeard. And this expedition, Captain Bran is going to take men overland to Bath, North Carolina, while Spotswood buys two small sloops, and they give him Lieutenant Robert Maynard to take command. Robert Maynard gets 55 men, and so they have to sail down looking for Blackbeard. Rumor has it he's either in Ocracoke or he's either going to be in Bath. Well, when they show up to Bath, Israel Hands is there as a cripple. They'll arrest him. They actually charge Tobias Knight with accessory to piracy, because they find in his barn not only sugar, but cocoa, all sorts of stuff. That he's the collector of customs, so he's not really supposed to have those things. And so they know they're in league with Blackbeard. So on the early dawn of 22 November 1718, Maynard was on the Jane, which is one of the sloops, and a midshipman Baker, who sometimes appear as the name Hyde, is on the sloop Ranger. They at dawn will move towards Blackbeard, right? And I got to tell you, Blackbeard sees them. He wonders what they're about, and he stands up on his quarterdeck, and he's got a bowl of liquor in his hand, and he says, "Damn you for villains! Who are you, and from whence you come?" Maynard shouts back that you may see by our colors. He's just raised the British Jack, and you can see by our colors we are no pirates. Blackbeard shouts back, "Send your boat a long time so I could get to know you." And Maynard says, I'm not going to do that, basically. I cannot spare any boat, but I will come aboard you with my ship as soon as I can. Blackbeard then takes a bowl of liquor and hoisting it, to his enemies, and then drank it down and said, "Damnation size my soul if I give you quarter or if I take any from you." Maynard says, "I don't want any, and I won't give any to you." Oh my gosh. Now these boats are about a little over a pistol shot away. Now, if you're ever down in Ocracoke, the channel is very difficult. The Jane runs aground, and Blackbeard's ship, the Adventure, runs aground. However, the tide is rising, so they get off. The Jane moving towards them, and also the Ranger, and they're coming from both sides of him. So what is Blackbeard? His ship, so he fires two broadsides at one time. One smashes into the Ranger, killing 9 men, killing the captain, the second in command, the third in command, and broke the mainstaff of the ship. So they are dead in the water. The other broadside strikes the Jane, killing 20 men, and Maynard orders the rest of the men to go down below. He's expecting another broadside, but he continues his vessel towards Blackbeard. Just before close combat happens, one of Blackbeard's crew members comes up to him and says, does your wife know where your treasure is buried? You know, nice question. And Blackbeard replied that no one but himself and the devil knew where it was, and the longest liver shall take it all. Wow, you know, in other words, I ain't telling. So they actually, Blackbeard had developed these little grenades out of small tin gin bottles that he put gunpowder and like nails and shot in it. And so they lit it with a quick match and they throw it on board the ship. Very devastating. One of those could take out a crew. So they throw several on there. Finally, Blackbeard throws the last one. And as he looks through the dim smoke, right, he thinks there are only a couple men on board. They are all, as he said to his crew, knocked in the head, except 3 or 4. Let's jump on board and cut them to pieces. Now, 14 pirates versus 12 members of Maynard's crew. And they jump on, and all of a sudden these guys come up from below. Blackbeard is not worried. He is very fierce. However, Maynard goes straight after Blackbeard. Oh my gosh. This is, of course, Ocracoke Inlet. So right inside there is Teach's Hole. And here you go. You can see how Blackbeard towers. There's his brace of pistols, his huge sword. So actually, Blackbeard and Maynard come close to the second row and myself. Blackbeard fires his gun. Remember, he's been drinking, right? He stayed up all night before drinking. He's already been drinking that morning. So he misses. Maynard shoots Blackbeard in the chest, and Blackbeard merely laughs as if nothing would hurt him. And so then I have to tell you that both men draw their swords and will start fighting. Well, Blackbeard has such a powerful, they said his sword works like a windmill, and he comes down on Maynard's swords, breaks it. Oh my gosh, this is trouble. Now, at this moment, Blackbeard is going to get his sword, and he's winding up to put an end to Maynard. Maynard's trying to cock his gun to be able to fire it, when an unnamed crew member comes alongside Blackbeard, whacks at him one time. You know, Blackbeard has dreadlocks, and so the sword pops off, and then the man hits him again, giving him a grievous wound in the neck and throat. Blackbeard, his sword comes down on Maynard, only hitting his hand. Blackbeard, ferocious, yelling like Harpy, he will continue to fight. And I have to tell you that basically he uses his sword, his pistols to fight off the men. But everyone now knew the center of the battle was Blackbeard. And so, after receiving 25 cuts and 5 pistol shots, Blackbeard, the blood, the water around the ship is tinctured with blood. Okay, that just tells you how nasty it is. And so Blackbeard's getting ready to cock his pistol, and guess what? He drops dead on the deck. Oh my gosh, the rest of the crew surrenders. And so Blackbeard is gone. Maynard chops his head off, right? And throws Blackbeard's body into the Sound. Guess what? They say that it swam around the sloop twice, right? Of course it didn't, but that's the lore. And so it swam around it twice and then disappeared, never to be seen again. Blackbeard's Head, there you go. Actually, Maynard takes over the adventure and goes up to Bath, has his men, their wounds treated. He has all these prisoners, which he takes back to Hampton. And basically on 3 January 1719, Maynard comes back. the ship, the Pearl and the Lime, fires salutes in his honor. And when he arrives in Hampton, of course, Spotswood's there. He takes the guard of all the captured pirates, takes them up to Williamsburg. Some are hanged right away there at Hampton, where the Crown Plaza Hotel is located and on the mudflats. And I have to tell you, they take Blackbeard's Head and they put it on a pike at a place that's now known as Blackbeard's Point. My house is 300 yards from that very spot. And my house was built in 1757. So it wasn't there then, but some people think it was, but nevertheless, I know it wasn't. But that head stayed there for supposedly 18 months as a warning to all what happens to a pirate. Thank you.
I'm sure we have some questions from the room as well. Online. Kira, are we?
Any questions quite yet?
Okay, well, any questions in here in the room? And I'm going to repeat the question before John answers it. So my favorite young man here, what's your question?
Did the head stay there?
It stayed 18 months.
They say 18 months and then it disappeared.
So that was
There
about
are
Blackbeard's Head, we're asking.
3 examples that they claim to be Blackbeard's Head. We had an exhibit about pirates, I think sometime last century. And we had one that had a silver base and it was just the bald head and it was a drinking cup. Supposedly the Skull and Bones Society at Yale has one, and initiation is take a drink of liquor out of the bowl or the skull. So yes, it just disappeared one day. And what they did with so many pirates, like Captain Kidd, they hanged him, and they always hanged them where the public ships would go by. Once again, a warning to all. Captain Kidd was in this iron cage, and so that his bones ended up at the bottom of the cage. Once again, don't do this. The pirates always feared to be hanged to allow the crow to pluck out their eyes. Actually, there was a slave on board the Adventure who was given the task of blowing up the ship if the battle went against him. But he thought better of it when Blackbeard was dead, so that didn't happen. But many pirates often would do that rather than surrender to basically end up being hanged.
Another question from the room? Kira?
We've got one online. So Lauren is saying, any longstanding lore regarding hidden pirate treasure of Blackbeard in North Carolina?
There are no hidden there is no hidden treasure in Blackbeard. He spent his money very freely, and so that's why he lived like he did. When he ran low on money, he'd go capture another ship, capture some liquor, so everyone would be happy. The only real recorded buried treasure is that of Captain William Kidd, who, after sailing he left to be a pirate hunter. But, sometimes it's easier just to be a pirate than a pirate hunter. So he becomes a pirate. He is known to have murdered one of his crew. And so when he comes back to New York, at the very end of Long Island is what's called Gardiner's Island. And there Kidd buried his treasure. And the Gardner family become very rich shortly thereafter. Haven't figured that one out totally. Yes, and actually the descendant of that Gardner family will be Julia Gardner Tyler, married to President Tyler. So
At Sherwood Forest.
Yes.
On Route 5 in Virginia.
Yes.
Yes.
Great question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not so much a question, it's more of a comment. Like you, I'm a prolific offered a racketeer too.
Oh, okay.
I tell those stories in front of the winds first.
Oh.
My version is, to get the crowd really going, is that after removing his head, they threw his body over for the sound where it swam 10 times around the ship. And
Ah.
when someone laughs at me, I purposely approach them and kind of engage with them for a moment, and I say, "'Twas only 3 times."
Well,
So they get a kick out of that.
we don't think it actually happened, but it is
It's
part
a
of the
good story.
lore about him. And you can well imagine such a powerful man as Blackbeard, you throw his body in the water, just because you look at the chicken without his head, he runs around still. So I guess that's the illusion they're trying to make. But I don't really, because of how many wounds he had, he probably bled out.
Mhm.
And so I don't think there was really much strength left in his body. However, it's good copy.
One of my last tours, it was actually thunder and lightning while I was doing the Blackbeards.
Oh,
It was
fun.
perfect.
I
Made
bet.
it even better.
That's
Kira, we have another question from you.
Yes, so this is a good one, and I'm very curious about this as well. What happened to all his wives?
Uh-huh.
Well,
That's what I was
we
getting ready to
know
ask.
when he remarried that plantation girl that there are 12 left. We don't know where the other 2 are. One was purportedly pregnant, according to Charles Johnson, back in England.
Mm.
However, we have no proof of him marrying that many people. And back then, like his marriage to the young plantation girl, they don't mention her name anywhere, is that Charles Eden said, "You're married." So, I don't know how formal. I don't think there were any church weddings with Blackbeard involved, to tell you the truth. But I do believe that there must be some truth to that. How many? I don't think we're ever going to be recording that.
Does
So
Blackbeard have,
thought divorce was, "I'm leaving that port."
does he have the most wives on record of any pirate?
Sinbad the pirate, or Bluebeard, Sinbad the pirate, also noted to have huge amounts of wives.
Okay.
Wow.
They are actually are Muslims, so it's hard to say
Hmm.
if they were legal wives or not,
Uh-huh.
because of
Mhm.
Religious.
the religious tenets.
Interesting.
But I have to tell you, I didn't see anyone standing up saying, "Well, where's my share of that loot?" And actually, they got prize money. They took all the sugar and cocoa on board the Adventure and at the camp and at Governor Eden's barn and Tobias Knight's barn, and they then sold it, and that's how they paid off the prize money to all of Maynard's crew, the crew of the Lime, the crew of the Pearl. Spotswood got to get his money back from buying those sloops. And so there's only so much to go around. Maynard is disappointed because his men are not really given the share, because you had shares when you had, prize money. And so he's disappointed. The oddest thing is Maynard is never promoted, and you never hear about him again. Here's the mighty guy that stood down Blackbeard. And so, but
And
I know he
made
got
it,
100 pounds.
and made it into the painting that you showed. Yes.
Yes.
So he
Yeah,
lives
that
on.
painting is, I think, one of the greatest depictions. It's done in the 1920s.
Mhm.
And if you look at it, it looks like they're on the Adventure, but they weren't. In fact, good old Ben Franklin will say that they boarded the Adventure and fought them there. But in truth, Blackbeard boarded the Ranger, and that's where he would be killed. The sloop in the background is inaccurate because that should be the pearl. And actually, according to the description of the battle, its mainmast was shot down. So, you know, artists take some liberties, don't they, Kira?
Oh, yes.
But that center view is really the truth of the battle.
Advance to the end, John, so people will have your contact information.
Yeah.
That's not John, but it is one of our monitor sailors, but it's one of my
William
favorites.
Jeffers is the
William
captain of
Jeffers,
the
and
Monitor.
here's John's email, and he's welcome. You're welcome to contact him with any ideas, any input. And Kira?
Yeah, we have a few more questions
Oh,
here.
okay, I'm sorry.
So Shiloh asked if I visit Beaufort, is there stuff about Blackbeard to see?
Yes.
Oh, yes, let me tell you.
Fantastic.
Beaufort
Well, we do
Maritime.
have a
They-
couple. So.
They actually found his boat.
Mhm.
And everyone goes, well, it can't be. They counted the cannons, right? And the description, and daggum right, it's his boat.
Mhm.
So you can go down to the North Carolina Maritime Museum in
In
Beaufort,
Beaufort.
and you could see some of the cannons
Wow.
and some of the objects. Now, they didn't find a whole lot of gold, but they did find the cannons, other items, shoes, just like we found in the Monitor.
Mhm.
You know, it's a great
Mhm.
shipwreck. It's right outside of Beaufort Inlet. Actually, you stand on the parapet of Fort Macon. You can look out.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be that clear of a day, and you can see the buoy
Wow.
Mhm.
where the Queen Anne's Revenge sank. So yes, they have a fine exhibit. There's still archaeology going on the site. They have a conservation program.
At
And-
East Carolina and Greenville.
That's right.
Their lab is in Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay, so that actually, I think, answers or at least segues into the next question. Charlie Robertson asks, I understand that they found the Queen Anne's Revenge. Where are the items from the ship today?
Well, they're either in a conservation lab,
Mhm.
like here for the Monitor,
Mhm.
or on display. You know, he had bronze cannons. So bronze is not, it's not, well, I won't say it's not difficult to conserve, but it's a faster process.
Mm.
And so they remade part of that museum,
Mhm.
and the museum is, extremely popular. So if you wanted to go down to Beaufort, there's one house on the main drag that was built, I think, in 1701 that they say Blackbeard stayed in. And so you've got 3 places to go in Beaufort.
Oh, 4, the Royal James Tavern.
Oh, yeah,
Best-
yeah.
Best hot dog and beer in town.
Okay, well, I don't know. if
And it's
Blackbeard-
named after Royal James, the ship.
That's Stead Bonnet ship.
Yes.
So yes, I've been there, gosh, a few times.
Mhm.
You can actually go to the very end of Ivy Home Road in Hampton. And you look to the right if you're heading down, and that's where the head was.
Wow.
And so, and it was really there. And my house is called the Blackbeard house. I don't know why, because it wasn't standing then, but people come by and say, was this where Blackbeard was? Well, no, but for $50, I'll tell you another story.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
And then one last question. They just said book on the subject. So I guess, do you have a book you would recommend on the subject?
I would recommend Charles Johnson. And that's
This book here, General History of the
Yeah,
Pirates.
that's right. There you
Okay.
go. Wow, how did
Mhm.
we do that?
Mhm.
And so that is probably the closest thing you're going to get to a primary source. Now, I have to tell you, the Library of Virginia actually has some of the papers of Blackbeard, his journal, the letter from Tobias Knight that was sent to Blackbeard right before Maynard shows up. Be on your guard, right? There are those who hate you. And so all that was, of course, taken, given to the governor, used in trials. They actually they bring to trial 25 people. 2 are found, are acquitted, and the rest are hanged. They're hanged in Hampton, Capitol Landing in Williamsburg, Gloucester Point, that would then called Tyndale's Point, and then also in Yorktown. Once again, we're putting those folks there, to let you know, don't be a pirate.
And all those Hampton Roads waterways are
Yeah,
connecting
well,
us all to
Blackbeard
the
never
water.
really comes in. He captures 2 ships off the Virginia Capes, but he does careen his vessel on Smith Island, right near Cape Charles, right near Fisherman's Island.
Mhm.
And he actually talks about it, and it's a well-known fact. So does Blackbeard, who should really talk about Blackbeard? It's just like the Monitor. North Carolina thought they should. We thought, oh, well, the battle is here, so we should have it here. So we are a secondary source here on the peninsula to Blackbeard. Now, I think you can actually take a boat and go on Smith Island and see where the ship was careened. It was actually careened inside the island. So the Betty is captured within sight of Cape Henry. So, and that area was a noted, I'm going to do another story that I think is pretty good. I got 2 more pirate stories I'm going to tell.
Not today.
Not today, because I need another 5 hours. But anyway, thank you all for participating today. We really appreciate your support for the Mariners Museum and Park. And I have to tell you, this is part, we're glad to be giving lectures again in person. I can't tell you how much I love to do it. But I love doing these Zooms because we do reach out across the world. And the message of the Mariners Museum is exactly that.
And speaking of reach across the world, Kira has shared the link with the online community to fill out our survey. And we are going to send you folks in person a survey, because that's the way we learn what worked and what didn't work and how we can improve. So I encourage all of you, if you see the survey, please do fill it out. It helps us a great deal, and also helps us fill out grant applications, which is very important, very important. John's next lecture we'll go back to the Civil War, or forward to the Civil War.
Yes.
On January 28th, here at the same time and place, and also online. And it is about the Battle of Trent's Reach. And so we will return to a naval history with our Civil War historian. And again, thank you all so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of the museum.
Thank you.
Thank you.